according to Matthew, the 20th chapter. Jesus said to the disciples, "The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, 'You also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right.' So they went. When he came out again about noon, about 3 o'clock, he did the same. And about 5 o'clock he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, 'Why are you standing here idle all day?' They said to him, 'Because no one has hired us.' He said to them, 'You also go into the vineyard.' When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, 'Call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first.' When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now when the first came, they thought they would receive more. But each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they had received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, 'These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat.' But he replied to one of them, 'Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to the last the same as I gave to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you generous, or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last." Please be seated. In today's reading, there seems to be two themes that are combining. God is merciful and has steadfast love. That's the first theme. The second theme is we humans are not comfortable with that. We crave being ahead in the race, any race that we are in. Being first, having more than the other, or being higher in the social hierarchy are cravings that some version of them we all have lurking inside of us. And then we think, if only we are on top, then all our insecurities would evaporate. We could rest with the confidence that we had made it. We could be secure in the knowledge that we had taken what it takes to be secure. However, our confidence would be in ourselves and not in God. It is sort of like being your parents' favorite child. It would feel good at first. After all, I am special to my mother, or she wouldn't favor me over any other siblings. But over time, that would not feel good. You would soon learn that you had to keep up whatever made you special in your parents' eyes. You would realize that you have conditional love. That means you can easily lose that love, and your fears would come roaring back. Knowing that your parents loved all their children ultimately increases your confidence that you are loved just as you are. In Matthew and Jonah, we find out how difficult it is for us to trust that kind of love and to trust that it's real. We see our position threatened by the generosity God shows. We have examples of how God can love far more than we can, that God can be happier for and more generous to others than we can be. I love this gospel. I can see myself in the worker who complained about not making more than those who worked less. I think most of us can. It is definitely a fairness issue. I do not think that I would mind if the latecomers made the same amount as I was offered. I would probably think, what a nice guy my employer was. But I'd also expect to see a happy surprise in my paycheck. And when I didn't get it, I may have become a disgruntled employee. Whether or not I said anything or complained, I would have had a little resentment. On the other hand, it's quite possible I could be happy for the other. I may be okay with the Johnny come lately. I may have been happy for them. I may have been content receiving what I was promised. After all, it was the going rate. I may feel financially secure enough. I may feel confident in my work ethic. I may trust that God will give me what I need. I may not need to look to my right and to my left. I may be in a place where I am secure enough not to need to compare myself to others. And maybe I won't be in any of those places. Maybe I will harbor some of those negative feelings. Just being honest, the idea of fairness is deep-seated in us. And ironically, it shares space with our generosity of spirit. But the gospel today, instead of sharing space, they are competing for the space within us. Sometimes our spirit is able to be happy for others, and sometimes it screams, "It's not fair!" In some ways, we still have an inner toddler. God knows this about us. Fortunately, God's steadfast love extends to us. God chides Jonah. The landowner chides the worker who is angry. God nor the landowner throws the book at them. Hopefully, we will get a wake-up call and expand our hearts, enlarging it to have more generosity of spirit. That's a lifelong process for all of us. There is an interesting way that the two responses represent two sides of what is right. Fairness is what the world looks for at its best. Generosity of spirit is what God's people look for at our best. Most of us are on a journey to move from standing firm for fairness to having an open heart and a sense of abundance. And we are also on a journey from worrying mainly about ourselves and our loved ones, having what we need, to wanting others to get a fair shake. This duality confounds the brain, it confuses our sensibilities, and it leaves us jumping from one to the other. The desire for fairness is the stronger of the two, but it is a close call. If we see someone is genuinely in pain or suffering, usually our generosity of spirit will triumph, and we will want good for them, and we'll try to be good to them. But when we see someone else who may be getting a better deal than we are, fairness usually comes out on top. We took our 2 kids to the fair last week, and we had a lot of fun. We told each of them that they could get 1 toy apiece. My daughter picked one out that was twice as expensive as her brother's. And he was absolutely content and happy with what he had chosen. However, my husband and I were very careful not to let the kids know how much the toys cost. My son would have been up in arms over not getting as expensive a toy as his sister. He would have wanted to get another, just to even things out. If we were not careful, we would have run the risk of having our own little arms race. We are working on teaching our children gratitude. We are working on teaching them to trust that exact fairness at every moment is not possible. I must say that 10 times a day. We are working on teaching them to be happy when the other has something good going on, and it is a work in progress. But the part of the brain caught comparing ourselves is a strong part. It's a part of the survival instinct. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't be able to survive. It's what lets us know when there's a problem that endangers us. On the other hand, when my daughter couldn't find her stuffy when we got home from the fair, my son was the one who comforted her and focused on finding it for her. When my son had a tough day at school a few days ago, it was his sister who sat down with him and told him it would be okay. Instead of getting even with him for stealing what she was playing with, she asked him to play with her. Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to the last the same as I give to you. Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last. Unfortunately, the sense of unfairness can seem to dwarf everything else in the situation today in the gospel and with Jonah. I can just picture those who worked all day in the heat saying with a pouty voice, "I wish I could have caught a break and gotten paid without having to work all day." We are often blind to the breaks we have gotten over time. We take them for granted. I had really good parents in many, many ways, but I can list 100 mistakes that they made. Yep, and as a daughter of this generation, I can name them, and I can number just how difficult they were. Can I remember at least 100 things that they did right? Yeah, some days, and I can, but only after I started working on it to get a real balance, you know. Both the Old Testament writer and the gospel show us how generous God is. They show us that God is a lot less interested in punishing us than in coming up alongside of us. God is more interested in helping us to open our eyes and our ears and to see that this God of ours is merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. We don't need to feel threatened when another person receives something good. God has enough love for all of us. We don't need to compare ourselves to others and fret if another appears to have more in whatever area of life we're looking at the moment. God is merciful and slow to anger. And I'm going to say something now and ask you not to be shocked. But my father used to say that if Hitler wasn't in heaven, that he did not want to go. Because God's not God if he can't even love Hitler. I may not be able to love Hitler, but then again, it's a good thing I'm not God. So there was a generosity of spirit and a wanting to see that, just have the vision of seeing that as just out there for all the universe. For me, I translate that to, there are a few people I want to see in heaven. I want to see how deep and steadfast God's love is also. I will be happy that they are there, but I do not want to sit next to them in the throne room. See them, wave to them, and think, boy, God really does know how to love, and then going away. God has promised steadfast love to each and every one of us. It is a long and fraught journey to being really able to trust that. It is one step forward and 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward and 1 step back. This is a process of growth to get to that point. And it is a good thing that God has steadfast love. It is a good thing that God is slow to anger. That is ultimately what we put our hope in. That is our growing edge.
Take my life that I may be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move, happy impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my life that I may be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise.